I'm going to make raw diet, and this would be raw diet. It would be a general recipe that you could use for a puppy. But you could also use this recipe for an adult dog. It's very simple. We're going to use some chicken leg quarters. Now, since it's for a puppy, we're going to take these chicken leg quarters and we're going to smash them up. And that's very important because if it's a puppy and they still have their milk teeth in, they don't have the strength or the teeth to be able to go through a leg quarter. If you're listening to somebody on the internet that is saying that you can give your puppy a chicken leg quarter, don't listen to them. They don't know what they're talking about. If you're listening to somebody that's saying this, that's a breeder of wolf hybrids. Those are very large dogs, and they might be able to go through a leg quarter, maybe. But with like a Labrador, you would still want to smash this up. A German Shepherd, you can give the puppy enteritis. You don't want to upset the puppy's stomach because then you're going to screw up training because the dog might have to go to the bathroom and go to the bathroom in the crate. You don't want the dog to get diarrhea. One thing that's very important is we're using leg quarters because this will have the proper amount of calcium in it. If you use pork or beef, then you have to add calcium, and that's why I would have this here, is because I just made a batch of pork, and I'll do a video on that too, but you have to add calcium. People ask me, what's the best brand of calcium? Are you idiotic? Calcium is calcium. You just want to make sure it does not have D3 in it, because calcium with D3 is not water soluble, it's fat soluble. So it'll store up in your dog's body and it'll make them really, really sick. You can really mess up your dog that way. So if you're gonna do that, get calcium without D3. But we don't need that because we're using chicken leg quarters. And these are relatively large, so the bones are pretty big, so you're gonna have enough calcium in there. If it was smaller, younger chickens, you might have to add a little calcium. Just telling you the facts. Or add in a few chicken talons, because they're mostly calcium, or some chicken backs. For fiber in this puppy diet that we're making, we're going to add some fiber because you want to keep the dog regular and you don't want them to get constipated. So we're going to add some spinach. We're going to add a whole can of spinach to these 4 leg quarters. Well, I got another one in there. It'll be a total of 5 leg quarters. We'll add the whole can. That is a lot of fiber. If you're one of these people that gives your dog carrots, uncooked carrots, you're a fool. Your dog can't utilize any of that. And those have a lot of sugar in it. Why are you giving your dog something that it can't digest? That's similar to your dog eating grass. Either it's going to throw it up or poop it out, and it's going to look exactly the same because they're not made to digest raw vegetables. So if you're going to use vegetables like this is a cooked product. You give your dog raw spinach, raw any of the vegetables, that's a huge mistake. And don't be giving your dog carrots. When would a dog be eating a carrot, digging up a carrot and eating it? And if you think that, oh, my dog likes it, so it's good for the dog, you probably shouldn't own the dog. That is just a fool's game, you doing something like that. There's other things you shouldn't be giving your dog. Your dog shouldn't be eating fruit. Why would your dog be eating fruit? I'm not saying that your dog can't have a blueberry or two, that you can do that. You're short on spinach or something. See, this I like, because this would be like, say you have a dog that's the size of a wolf, and they kill a rabbit and eat the whole rabbit. Would be eating the stomach contents of the rabbit, and that would probably be something comparable to this. Like they eat greens and stuff like that, but then it's pre-digested, it's cooked in the rabbit's stomach. You wouldn't use it raw. Raw diet means raw meat and bone. It has nothing to do with raw meat. I had people contact me and say, I started giving my dog the raw meat diet, and I said, they don't add calcium, they think it's just about raw meat. Bone is just as important as the protein and the fat. And remember, your canine, they get the bulk of their energy from protein and fat. Human beings, we get the bulk of our energy from carbs. We're totally different. Totally different. You could give this, what I'm making, to an adult dog, no problem. You could also give it to a cat. I'd be giving this to Bucket. I could also give it to, well, I would not give this to Sam the Raven because this is poultry. This is another bird. I'm not going to have him be eating bird. But if I was doing the same thing with pork or beef and adding calcium, I could give it to Sam the Raven. The first thing that you want to do is smash this chicken up, and that's what we're going to do. And I cannot express this enough that if you don't smash this up and you try giving your dog something like this, your puppy, you're going to give it enteritis. But when we're on the subject, know this, that cooked chicken bones will screw up your dog. Everybody's heard that. Chicken bones are bad for your dog. Cooked chicken bones are bad for your dog. Raw chicken bones, they can digest rather easily, and that's why we use these. These are more appropriate than, like, say, a cow bone. A cow bone, they might start crunching the femur, bust their tooth or something. Not this. And this is totally easy. You don't have to grind this up. By the way, this right here that I'm using to make this is a Lynn Thompson, cold steel Lynn Thompson Tanto machete, and it's awesome for making raw diet. I just use this on pork, on a pork loin, cut it like butter. Cut it like butter, it's awesome. The first thing that I do with the leg quarter is I take the nub in here, right? And I smash it like this. I just smash them. I can use a hammer to do this too. Smash them up real good. And then I just start working with each one individually. Cuts like butter. Thank you, Lynn Thompson and Cold Steel. So one question that I'm asked constantly is, when can I start introducing organ meats like liver? And it just seems strange to me that, like, there's this preoccupation with organ meats. I'm not saying don't give your dog organ meats, but build up the beneficial bacteria in your dog, which this is a probiotic here. Just build it up. Don't overdo it. And if you're going to give organ meats, man, you got to add calcium. Once again, if you're going to add calcium, no D3. You do not want to use calcium with D3. And what brand is the best brand of calcium? There is no better brand. It's calcium. Calcium is calcium. It's a fact. But if you're going to use eggshells and you think that you're doing something better for your dog, whatever. This assimilates to the body, great. It does. It works really good. Eggshells, you got to cook them, and please, it's just calcium. Stop thinking that your eggshells are going to be better than this. You might be wrong. You have to get the eggshells. You gotta break them down in the oven, and then you gotta use a mortar and pestle. Okay. So as far as like organ meat goes, when you're given the chicken leg quarter, look, see this in here in the back? Can you see that? There's stuff left. There's all kinds of stuff left in here. It's there. The organ meat's already there. You're already giving organ meat to your dog, so you don't have to flip out a whole lot. But you should be using leg quarters and leg quarters only. I want to mention this because people don't get this either. They'll give their dog drumsticks, and then the dog has diarrhea. Well, there's not enough calcium. There's not enough bone in the drumstick. The protein to calcium ratio is not correct. Do you see along here, all this like spine here? That's all calcium. Are you picking this up yet? Is this making sense to you? By the way, thighs don't have enough calcium bone in it. You're going to give your dog diarrhea again. And if you put together a drumstick and a thigh, you don't come up with a leg quarter. And I have to explain this to people. It's ridiculous. It doesn't have the section here. Look at how much bone is in there. Use chicken leg quarters. That's it. Just use chicken leg quarters with the adult dogs and with the puppy. This is best cut. You can use chicken backs though. They have plenty of calcium, and you can also use chicken talons. We don't have to add any calcium because the calcium's already here. All we need to do is add fiber. We use this can of spinach. What brand is the best brand of spinach? It's all the same, but I like the label on Popeye. Definitely. And remember, fiber to dogs is an irritant. It is. They are a carnivore, and the pet food companies spread this rumor that they're not an obligated carnivore, meaning you can give a dog a lot of stuff and they won't die right away. But they also won't do real good either. And the reason why they did that is so that they can make money, because the more filler type stuff that they put in there, it's more cost effective for the pet food companies. Definitely. And they also are trying to sell people on stuff, meaning a dog wouldn't be eating an apple. Wolves from Yellowstone aren't getting shot because they're going outside Yellowstone and attacking apple orchards. They're putting that in there so that the human sees it. Oh, that's good for my dog. No, it's good for you. It's not necessarily good for your dog. It's all cooked anyway. That kibble and stuff, that's cooked. That's a process. That's like giving your dog Doritos. They cook it so that afterwards they have to introduce vitamins into it, because they cook everything out of it that's good. Does that make sense to you? Now, when we're talking about pet food, let's talk about raw diet as a pet food. Are you kidding me? You don't see. Listen, that would be like better than kibble, but you're still giving your dog pet food. You're still giving your dog pet food. There's stuff in there that your dog isn't going to need. Don't be a fool. Don't be a fool. Now keep in mind, this really, any age dog could eat this, but like I said, this is for a puppy, so we are giving it a little bit extra cooked vegetables here. Please understand that is the least important part of your dog's raw diet. Would be vegetables. I've known dogs that they don't do good on vegetables at all. They pretty much are, carnivorous, and that's and there's many owners that do that too. So understand that the most important part of your dog's diet would be your calcium to protein ratio, because if it isn't proper, if you give them too little calcium, you'll screw up the calcium phosphorus level. And you don't want to do that. It's sort of better to have more than enough calcium, because your animal, your dog or your cat will excrete it if they have too much. All animals that eat other whole animals, dogs, dolphins, cats, birds of prey, ravens, they all need a ton of calcium because bone is part of their diet. And something else that's very important, out of all the things that your domestic pet could have as far as deficiency goes, what is the number one thing? It is calcium that is the most common deficiency in our domesticated pets. That's horses, that's everything. Lizards, dogs, cats, okay? So keep that in mind. It's very important that your dog gets enough calcium, and it's a puppy too. Now, if it looked like the puppy's also on pork and a beef-based diet, but if it looked like the chicken leg quarters were a little shy on calcium, I'd add a little calcium. I would. I'd add a little bit of calcium, but these look pretty big, and they look like they're going to do just fine. If I like when I'm mixing this up, I come across something a little bit big, we smash it down. Most of it's all really taken care of, and we're talking about a 13-week-old puppy at this point. As your puppy gets older, you smash it less. In about 5 months, the Australian cattle dog will be able to eat a leg quarter. That's a fact. You look for the dog's teeth to drop out. You can start smashing it. You can smash up a leg quarter for the dog and then freeze it, and then the dog will spend time chewing it. And that'll help them drop their milk teeth too. And remember, when you don't want to smash this forever, this is just right now because it's a puppy, or you have an ancient dog like Mango that's 22. There's an advantage to giving raw diet and giving it whole, like a whole leg quarter. And the advantage is that the dog has to spend energy eating. Our domestic dogs, they don't do anything. Make them spend energy eating in a natural way. If you just give them a bowl of stuff, they just gobble it up. Kibble, terrible for your dog. If you're giving grain-free, my God, Google grain-free and then FDA after it. Grain-free, there's so many grain-free diets that they sold this to the American public as this is like a better diet for your dog. And then we find out that many of these they're giving dogs cardiomyopathy. I was never on this. Why are you going to believe a potato would be better for your dog or a lentil? Why are you going to think that? When would they ever be eating that? Do you understand what we're using here? We're using spinach. That might be something that a rabbit might eat. Or, a cow would eat grass. It'd be sort of like spinach. It'd be digested in the buffalo's stomach. And then the wolf would be eating essentially cooked vegetables. When your dog eats grass, it's not eating vegetables. It can't utilize it. It shits it out the same way or it throws it up. And don't give your dog carrots, raw fruit, any of that. It's really bad for your dog. Your dog needs no sugar. On a side note, I saw somebody on Facebook that I know that's a doctor. She should know better than this. She's a dog lover. She has dogs. And she's saying, what's this dog like to eat? And then she's joking about anything with sugar. It's like, oh my fucking God. The doctor's overweight, by the way, and her son. They're both overweight. And they're joking about the dog eating sugar. How can you take a doctor seriously that is overweight? How is she ever going to tell anybody that they're overweight when she's clearly overweight? She's trying to exercise. I watch her on Facebook. She's trying to exercise the weight off. She doesn't get it off. She eats too much, and she's joking about her dog eating sugar. So I assume she eats sugar. Why sugar in the house? It's absurd. Feed your dog a natural diet. Start out when they're puppies. If you want to get your dog housebroken, you're going to want to smash it better than this if it's an 8-week-old puppy. But this is about for like a 13-week-old puppy. But if you want to get the dog housebroken, you use raw diet. You don't use pet food. You don't use kibble and all that because it expands in the dog's stomach. The kibble, they're eating something dry that's like a cracker, and then they get thirsty, and then they have to hydrate it in the dog's stomach. It pushes pushes out real fast. It expands. It's not good. By the way, if your dog is on kibble, there's no transition like you do with pet food. Pet food is a problem because they use bone meal, which is cooked bone. And cooked bone, remember what we said about cooked bone? It's bad for your dog. So that's in pet food. So if you feed them a little bit too much, they're going to get diarrhea. Or you switch them to another brand, they're going to get diarrhea. But if you're switching over to raw like this, you stop giving them that garbage and you start giving them this. This is what you want to feed your dog from the day that you get it. Don't listen to your vet that says no raw diet. You should look for another vet. And by the way, the vet that say no raw diet, she knows that people are generally idiots and will go and get the dog steak or something and not add calcium. And it won't be a balanced diet. She knows that the general population is stupid. So they're sort of obligated to say that. One other thing about this, and salmonella. This chicken was bought at a major grocery store. You can get it at Wegmans, you can get it at Walmart. They come from factory farms, and salmonella is not a problem. Why? Because the egg is inoculated before the chicken's even born for salmonella. There is no salmonella in this chicken. You know where you get salmonella from? The farmer down the road. The idiot person that thinks that they're gonna do better by their dog, giving them the organic or whatever, the free-range chicken. That's not better, it's not safer, it's unsafe, because there's wild birds running around, brown sparrows, and they would have salmonella, and then they'll pass it off to those chickens. The factory farms are closed, and they're inoculated for salmonella before they're even born. Is this making sense? And if anybody says, no, I don't want to use that chicken because they use antibiotics, no, they don't. No, they don't. It says it right on the bag. They don't have to. You know why? It's because these chickens live for about 2 months. That's it. And then they're killed. They're born, they feed them. They don't feed them with hormones. They feed them with grain. And then they're butchered. They have to do it that way because if there is a problem, if like a bacterial infection goes to the whole, they got to kill all the chickens. That'd be like salmonella. When chicken has salmonella, they lose millions of dollars. There's like big giant buildings with, 500,000 chickens in it. They have to kill them all. There's FDA people in there making sure that nothing like that happens. They're checked constantly. So they make sure that there is no salmonella in those chickens. Get your chicken from Walmart or a big grocery store like that Tyson, Purdue chicken. They don't use antibiotics. They don't have to. Did any of this make sense to you all? I hope it did. I hope it did. Feed your dog a raw diet. Feed your cat a raw diet. Feed your dog a raven. Feed them raw diet. Just don't feed them bird. One last thing. Nobody under this video asked, how much should I feed my dog, and tell me the breed or even the age. I don't know your individual dog. If you don't know how much to feed your dog, you shouldn't have it. And if you go by how much you feed the dog by what's on the bag of dog food, you're a fool. You are a fool. You shouldn't own a dog. Can't you use some common sense to feed the dog? And if you want to, you could pay for a Zoom or Skype session. I could run you through everything. But I'm not going to answer questions underneath this video. It's absurd. I'm going to feed this to a 13-week-old Aussie cattle dog. Right? See that? That's a very large hamburger. Maybe even that's a little bit too much. I'm going to take that, add that in. I'm going to feed the cattle dog this much. It's about this much 2-3 times a day. Right there. This is how much I'm feeding a 22-year-old Chihuahua right here. He gets this twice a day.